Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 495 of the True Crime All the Time podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How about you?
I am doing excelente.
Oh, excelente. Well, you know what? This is Thursday. We'll come out near Cinco de Mayo.
Huh? Possibly.
Excelente.
I can't look that far in the future.
Yeah.
It'll be next week.
Next week sometime.
It'll be around the 5th.
Yeah, around that time. So
around the 5th. So if it comes out on that, happy Cinco de Mayo.
Exactly. If not, well, still happy Cinco de Mayo anyway.
We'll drink a Corona for you or a Dos Equis.
Oh, yeah. Or a shot of tequila. You don't like my tequila.
Yeah, I used to until I got
that one
until
time.
I ate the worm that one time.
Yeah, see.
That was it for me.
You always,
I always take it too far.
You
man.
do.
That's why I don't drink anymore.
No self-control.
I have no self-control. All right, buddy, you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time?
I am ready.
We're talking about Brittney Gargol. In March 2015, 18-year-old Brittney Gargol was found dead on the side of the road in Saskatoon. Police used social media to solve her murder, focusing on a selfie taken by her friend, Cheyenne Antoine, on the night she died. So fascinating stuff. We're going to dive into all of it. Brittney Jane Gargol was born on August 31st, 1996, in Saskatoon, the largest city in the Canadian province of Saskatchewan. There's a lot of fun names to say here. Saskatoon is fun.
There is.
Saskatchewan is fun to say. Brittney was raised by her grandmother due to her mother's struggles with addiction. Her father was not in her life. So, I mean, it's a rough situation.
Sure it is.
But it's one that, unfortunately, a lot of people find themselves in.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but, let's face it, dads dip. And I think it's a horrible thing.
Right.
But they do. They take off. They leave the family. A lot of single mothers, we've talked about that in the past. But then when you have a single mother who has either, real severe alcohol or drug addiction, that is tough.
Yeah. At least you had a grandma that was willing to, take care of her.
Yeah. Step up and take care of her.
Yeah.
Brittney maintained a positive outlook on life. She was described as a bubbly and hyper girl.
Bubbly.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have described you in the past as bubbly and hyper.
It can be bubbly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a girl.
Yeah.
Some people have.
Whatever I need to be.
At the time of her death, she was just a few weeks away from graduating high school. One of the people who encouraged Brittney was her friend, 32-year-old Atasha Story. They became friends while working at a store in the area and remained friends after they both moved on to other jobs. Brittney often came to Atasha for advice. Brittney had gone through some rough patches, and Atasha encouraged her to go to school and pursue her dream.
That's a good friend right there.
It is. Now, there's quite an age difference, right? Brittney is, 18-ish, or she is 18 at this point. Probably met her when she was 17 or 18. And Atasha's 32, but you get the sense like that she's acting as almost like a big sister would.
Sure. I mean, she's got some years in front of you, so she knows kind of where you're at now.
Yeah, she got more life experience for sure.
She can say, well, I know where you're at, and I know where you want to be from my life experience. You probably got to pursue your degree and go that route, because that's what you're going to really want to do. It's
really not a bad person to have in your life when you don't have a lot of parental guidance. And it sounds like Brittney didn't have much, if any at all. You and I have probably touched on it before, but, there's that old saying, if I knew at 17, 18 what I know now.
Right.
Now, you and I are a little longer in the tooth than Atasha was at the time. But still, even if I knew at 17 what I knew at 30, I could have, blown the doors off this world.
Sure.
But unfortunately, you can't go back.
And I think that's why, a few years ago, I started rexwestmentoring.com.
Yep.
And it's really taken off. I'm currently booked, but it looks like there might be a few openings coming up soon.
Okay.
rexwestmentoring.com.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who needs mentoring in the area of retirement home exotic dancing, but if there's anybody out there, go to rexwestmentoring.com and sign up, I guess.
The set of principles used to do that, you can use them anywhere.
They're just life skills?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
It's not surprising that you got some openings, though. So Brittany wanted to pursue a degree in business management. Her dream was to build and own hotels.
Oh.
How about that?
I like that.
We talk about what people want to do when they get older, young kids, doctor, lawyer, astronaut, whatever. Then as you get older, things kind of change for some people. Now, some people might still latch on and hold on to that astronaut, doctor, lawyer dream.
Right.
But this is very specific.
It is.
Not just to own hotels, to build them.
Right.
To build your own. That's a very specific and what's the word? Lofty goal.
Yeah.
It really is. In addition to schoolwork, Brittany also had multiple jobs, including at a pizza shop and her local German cultural center. In her free time, she enjoyed outdoor activities such as snowboarding, camping, and boating.
I know you enjoy some snowboarding now and then.
I've never been snowboarding in my life. I've never been snow skiing in my life.
Really?
Never. Not one time. I've never gone to one, and we have some that are not that far away.
Yeah.
Where it's like snow year round. I don't know how they do it.
Maybe you probably just been doing the sledding, just the Clark Griswold.
Don't do that either.
Wow.
I don't do any snow sports whatsoever.
So basically, you really do not leave this studio at all.
No, I've tried regular skiing.
Okay.
Couldn't get out of the water.
No.
People make it look so easy. My wife, my daughter, man, they just pop out of the water and they're doing one-legged thing. I can't even get out of the water. It almost pulled my arms out of the socket. Now, my weight maybe could have played a factor there. I'm sure that doesn't help.
Could have been who was driving the boat too. Sometimes you need a good person behind that wheel that knows how to get you up.
Yeah.
That's
true. Because you do have to kind of floor it.
Yeah, the right momentum. You have to hit it just right to get you up and then back down. And
that was my last time because I thought these arms are going to come flying out. I got bad shoulders anyway. So
sometimes can give you a nice little enema too. So
yeah, we don't need that.
No.
On the night of March 23rd, 2015, Brittany decided to go out to a party in Saskatoon with her friend Cheyenne Antoine. Brittany and Cheyenne had been friends since the 9th grade. The girls bonded over their past. Early in life, Cheyenne lost both of her parents and grew up in the foster care system. She was also a survivor of childhood sexual abuse.
Wow. So another young woman that had a rough childhood.
Yeah. So I could see how, people could bond over something like that. Sure. They went through some similar type of things. According to Brittany's friend Atasha's story, both girls stopped by her home that night. Brittany asked to borrow some gas money. Atasha asked Brittany what her plans were. She said she was going out with a friend and was considering going to a party later that evening. Atasha told Brittany to be careful and to call her if she needed anything. Brittany gave her a hug, and that was the last time she saw her. So, I do want to go back to, Atasha. Again, she's quite a bit older, 14 years older, but really seems as though she was a good friend to Brittany.
Yeah.
Trying to help her with guidance, maybe help her with money every now and then. Just like an all-around good friend.
And everybody needs a good friend like that.
Yeah. At 12:02 a.m., On March 24th, Brittany posted a selfie of her and Cheyenne getting ready at Brittany's home. This was Brittany's last known correspondence. And, you and I talk about social media a lot because it comes up in most of the cases that we do that are fairly recent.
Right.
Obviously, in cases that occurred prior to the internet or social media, you're not going to have it. But, 18-year-olds, pretty big on social media.
Absolutely.
I would say. From even younger to, late teens, early 20s. And then I think maybe people start to slow down. Then they pick back up maybe when they get a little bit older.
Certain
but
age.
I don't know because I'm not a huge social media person. But when you say that's the last time someone was on social media, well, that's a pretty big deal for someone who's always on.
For sure it is.
They're always posting, doing this and that. For me, I don't know when the last time I was on, so it's really not a big deal.
No.
If I were to go missing, you wouldn't make anything out of it.
Yeah. I remember when I used to be on all the time.
Yeah.
And then I stopped altogether.
Mm-hmm.
People thought something happened to me.
Mm-hmm. It did.
And it did. Yep. And then, recently I got back on again, but I can see, when you're posting something every day or liking and
then just all of a sudden it's
stops.
Silence.
Yeah. I mean, people, I think they're going to ask that question. Like, what happened to them?
But luckily we had the podcast. People still knew you were on it.
Yeah.
I did get some questions about, is this AI? Are you just using Gibby's voice? I was like, no, because if so, I would make him sound way more intelligent.
More Mensa-like?
So around 6 a.m. on March 25th, 2015, a passing motorist called police after finding a female's body in a ditch on a remote road on the outskirts of Saskatoon, not far from a landfill. Okay. When you're talking about landfills, last week we were talking about like a quarry.
Quarry, yeah.
Any situation like that. Okay, I start to get a little suspicious, especially because, when you're talking about a criminal case.
Yeah.
The caller noted that the victim was cold to the touch and her shoes were missing. Law enforcement immediately suspected foul play because there were marks on the victim's throat and bruising consistent with a homicide, which makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, that's not good. When you hear things like that, that she would have suffered.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy to rule out accidental, self-inflicted. You're going to rule all of that out pretty quickly based on these marks and the bruising and all of that. Police collected a leather jacket, a watch, and a belt from the crime scene, hoping to get more information about the unidentified victim. And, it's interesting in a lot of these cases because, number one, they have to identify the victim.
Yeah.
First and foremost, you can't really do much of an investigation without that.
Yeah, you got to know who this person is so you know how to kind of walk backwards from that spot.
Yeah, how do you know who to talk to, where to look?
Yeah.
If you don't even know who the person is. That morning, they published photos of the victim's tattoos, which included a couple of stars and a lion's head. Atasha's story saw the news release and called the police to identify the victim as Brittney Gargol.
That'd be rough.
Oh, we just got done talking about, right? Atasha, what a good friend she was. To see this kind of on the news.
Yeah.
And you don't know anything's wrong with your friend. And the story is victim found murdered. Here are the clues we have. And you immediately know that those tattoos belong to her. I can't imagine what that's like.
No, I mean, just think about it. If that was your best friend and you see that article, I mean, I just think your stomach would just sink.
Yeah, you'd be sick
Yeah.
over it. She recalled, I literally dropped on my couch and started crying because I was like, there's no way. She was just here 9 hours ago.
How bizarre, you know? I mean, you just spent time with her.
Mm-hmm. Investigators looked through Brittany's social media accounts, hoping to recreate a timeline of her final hours. And again, I know I've talked about it, but I think that's something that investigators have now that, obviously they didn't have in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even in the early 90s.
Yeah.
This kind of digital footprint that almost all of us are leaving pretty consistently.
Pretty true. I mean, think about social media. Think about those smart watches.
Yeah.
That track some of your movements.
Sure. Just logging on to the internet.
Yeah.
The internet usage.
Getting into some of these vehicles now, they have tracking devices in them as well.
GPS.
So,
yeah. GPS in the phone. So I do think all of that comes into play a lot in some of the newer cases that we do talk about.
Yeah.
Police questioned Cheyenne, who said she and Brittany went bar hopping around Saskatoon, starting at Manchester Brew Pub and ending at Colonial Pub and Grill. And, what led them to Cheyenne was that they saw that Cheyenne Antoine had contacted Brittany via Facebook, writing, "Where are you? Haven't heard from you. Hope you made it home safe."
Yeah.
So, again, once you find out who the victim is, and now they know that it's Brittany, they're going to start looking for boyfriends, friends, people in her inner circle.
But it's interesting that, Cheyenne probably called, didn't get a response, and then knew, as most people today would, post something on social media because they know how often people view their social media accounts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't think younger people talk on the phone nearly as much as we used to.
Not at all.
I think a lot of the communication is text,
Yep.
social media, things like that. I just don't hear my girls talking on their cell phones at all.
No, I believe that. It's all
Much at all.
I mean, to get hold of my son, it's like text messages. And I'm like, hey,
Just call me, please.
are you available to talk?
Yeah.
Because it's going to be easier for me instead of me doing this. I can just talk to you. So
Yeah, it's just a different generation. And,
yeah.
I know my girls, they grew up with phones from the time they were, I don't know when we got them their first iPhones, but, 14, 15. So, they're really good with the texting and all
Sure.
of that. And I'm just like, okay.
They got all those shortcuts down. Whatever.
And there's the emojis that half of them I still don't understand. Some of them are dirty and I'm not supposed to understand.
You
But
keep sending me the eggplant thing. I'm like, dude, don't send me the
eggplant parmesan. I don't even know what that is. Around 4 a.m., they attended a house party and Brittany began hanging out with an unknown man in his 30s. She and Brittany eventually parted ways. Cheyenne was dropped off at an assisted living facility where she visited her uncle. Cheyenne got her uncle on the phone with police, and he corroborated her story, saying he saw Cheyenne sometime after 4 a.m. on March 24th. So, obviously, I think if you're the police, you got to start to focus in on this, unknown man in
Sure.
his 30s.
It sounds like a good spot to start. The Cheyenne's alibi doesn't sound super solid, but not bad.
Not bad, but I think you also have to look at motive.
Right.
What's the motive? Could be something, maybe. But they've been friends since a young age.
Yeah.
What is she going to get out of the murder?
But this unknown man, you never know.
No, and I think that's, for me, if I was a detective and I learned that, okay, I'm starting there.
Yeah.
A few days after Brittany's body was found, her postmortem exam confirmed she was strangled, and the murder weapon was the black braided belt found at the crime scene. She was not sexually assaulted. The belt was sent to the lab for testing. 2 DNA profiles were identified. One matched Brittany, and the other was unidentified. So, the one matching Brittany, you would expect.
Sure.
It's her belt.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's her belt. We don't know for sure. But it was there at the crime scene. If it was used to strangle her, you would expect her DNA to be on it.
100%.
But then the other DNA profile, you have to believe is from the killer.
Yeah.
I mean, now, not being able to identify it is a huge hurdle.
It is.
At this point. Meanwhile, police began following up on Cheyenne's account of her night with Brittany. Surveillance footage showed both girls at the Manchester pub, but not at the Colonial Pub and Grill. And I think, for police, this cast a little bit of doubt on Cheyenne's account of the night. Additionally, security footage from the assisted living facility showed that Cheyenne never went there to visit her uncle.
That's going to be a problem.
Yeah, it is a problem. It's also making my statement of, okay, well, what's the motive? Look possibly as though there was a motive and we just don't know what it is yet. Police talked to Cheyenne's uncle again, and he soon confessed that he lied because Cheyenne asked him to do so. She told him that she and Brittany went to a bar and eventually ended up at a motel with 2 men where they drank and used drugs. And you and I talk about alibis in almost every episode that we do. There are strong alibis. And then there are alibis like this, where you have someone's mom or friend or relative saying, well, that person was with me all night or from this time to this time.
Yeah.
But there's really no other way to corroborate it other than this person's word. And we've found out that a lot of those tend to fall apart.
They do.
Or not be true. Now, the one thing that did kind of jump out at me was, okay, they looked at surveillance footage. They didn't see Cheyenne. I'm assuming because this was an assisted living facility that maybe there was only one way in or out, or that they had surveillance footage on every possible entrance and exit.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way you could really say that.
Look, I've been to a lot of senior living homes.
I know you have.
And there's typically only one point of entry for visitors and guests, you know? Now, is there a back door way to sneak in? Sure. Or sneak out. But typically you have to go through one entry and, they want you to sign in and all that kind of stuff. So
I know you usually have to use the back door to escape.
I do.
After the show because, there's throngs of women who are trying to get at you.
I mean, to be honest, at this point, I can still outrun most of them, but it's getting harder.
It's getting harder and harder every year.
Yes.
So, her uncle confesses to lying. Cheyenne told her uncle that they fought over cocaine before she went to use the bathroom. When she returned, Brittany was dead on the bed with marks on her neck.
Oh.
She said one of the men threatened her, meaning Cheyenne, with a gun and demanded that she help dispose of the body.
I mean, this is a big turn of events, right? I mean, this story has totally flipped from what it originally was.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty much done a 180.
Yeah.
Right?
It really has.
From, okay, we parted ways. I went to go visit my uncle, to now we're partying with these men, using drugs. There's cocaine. All of a sudden, I come back from the bathroom and Brittany is dead.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, how long were you in the bathroom?
well, and also I think if you're police, you were already suspicious because you're starting to figure out that, Cheyenne's alibi is not holding up. Now, with the changing of the stories, I mean, she's got to be right there as prime suspect number one, or at least very involved in whatever happened. And let's not forget, she's also saying that one of these men threatened her with a gun and said, hey, you got to help dispose of this body. Police thoroughly investigated this story, and they found no proof that any of this ever happened. Police re-interviewed Cheyenne on May 3rd, 2015. At this time, she was in jail for shoplifting charges. According to the CBC, she was caught shoplifting and threatened a store's loss prevention officer with an allegedly HIV-contaminated needle.
Okay, you grab me, I'm going to stab you with this needle, buddy, and it's got stuff on it.
So, first of all, if you're kind of on police radar for your best friend's murder, do you then go shoplifting?
I would say no, but if you have a problem, and it sounds like maybe she might have had a drug problem.
Could have been.
The way you get the money to buy those drugs is to go shoplift the stuff and then turn around and sell it to make yourself some money.
Yeah. Some people, a lot of people do that. Cheyenne, though, she wasn't willing to talk about Brittany's death. Police still considered her a prime suspect, but as we've seen so many times, there just wasn't enough evidence for an arrest warrant. And again, I think that has to be very frustrating for police. Obviously, it's frustrating for family members of a lot of victims too, when you think there isn't kind of an absolute number one suspect.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, this person obviously had to have had something to do with it, but police can't charge them with anything.
No, I mean, at this point, she's just said, Brittany was fine. I went to the bathroom, came back out, and one of these guys strangled her, left her dead on the bed.
And then forced me to help dispose of the body.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think at the very least, you could do something with tampering of evidence, or, something, misuse of a corpse or something like that. But I don't think that's what they're looking for here. They think she played a much bigger role.
Yeah.
So they're wanting to go after her for murder is what I get from it. So as the weeks passed, Brittany's family was becoming frustrated. Like I said, it's natural, right? With how the investigation was progressing. And they were worried that the case would go cold. And I think frustration is one thing. I think a lot of victims, family members, experience that. But this other idea is something we probably don't talk about enough, and that's that they're not going to solve this. The case is going to go cold, and we're still going to be wondering 20, 30, 40 years later.
Yeah, who did it? Was it, Cheyenne, or was it one of these guys, or, who?
But that's got to be a real fear.
Yeah.
Because who wants to spend the next 30, 40 years wondering about that every day, frustrated that you don't have the answers? All of that is got to be tough.
Nobody wants that.
Unexpectedly, they received a call from Cheyenne's aunt, who said Cheyenne returned home in a panic. Shortly after Brittany's estimated time of death, she was crying and said she strangled Brittany.
There's a different side of the story now.
Well, but it's one I think police were leaning towards. Now, maybe they didn't know exactly how it happened, But I think they believed that her story was BS. So they knew something was not correct. Brittany's family contacted police, who contacted the aunt, and she gave them the same version of events.
So, here's a member of Cheyenne's family basically turning in Cheyenne. Mm-hmm. I mean, good for her, right? Because she's doing the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, you would hope that everyone would do that.
Yeah.
But we know they don't.
No.
There are some family members, there are some friends who will cover even when somebody gets murdered.
Right.
Now, I think for most people listening, most people watching would say, oh, I don't think I could live with that type of information. That's a lot to put on somebody.
Right. Yeah.
But you have to weigh that with turning your family member in.
Yeah. I mean, you turned me in for not paying for a Big Mac once. So.
Oh, I would turn you in for jaywalking if I thought it would amount to anything.
If it meant that I had to get that ankle bracelet back on monitor system.
So investigators did follow-up interviews with Cheyenne. Obviously, how could they not after this information? But she continued to deny knowing anything about Brittany's death, and there still was not enough evidence to arrest her. On September 10th, 2015, Cheyenne posted a comment on Brittany's Facebook, writing, "I miss you so much. You came and visited me in my dream last night. Miss you so much. You were way too young to go. Rest in paradise, my angel."
If she didn't do anything, that's really sweet and touching.
It's something you would expect from a best friend, right? Anniversaries, birthdays, the anniversary of the death, things like that. You would expect people to come out and make those type of posts.
Yeah.
Now, if it turns out that she had something to do with it, then what is it?
Yeah. Somebody feeling maybe guilty. Maybe it's somebody that's just putting some fluff out there to make her look better.
Yeah. Maybe misdirect the police or make them not look as closely at her. In 2017, almost 2 years after Brittany was killed, investigators had an aha moment. According to prosecutor Robin Ritter, they circled back to the selfie Brittany posted shortly before she died. In the photo, Cheyenne was wearing a black braided belt that looked just like the one found at the crime scene, which was determined to be the murder weapon. A new round of testing confirmed the unknown DNA profile on the belt belonged to Cheyenne.
Wow. I mean, that's what they needed right there.
Yeah. And, you could make the argument, oh, why did it take them so long to figure that out? But there's a lot of stuff going on in an investigation.
And like you've mentioned in the past, each year, DNA testing and all that gets better and better and better. So in 2 years, I'm sure there was some development there too.
It does, but I think if they had thought it was Cheyenne's back then, they probably could have matched it to her.
Yeah.
She just wasn't in a database.
Right.
So that's why they didn't get a match first time around. On March 7, 2017, Cheyenne was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and causing indignity to a body.
There's that charge that you were looking for.
Yeah, but I don't know that I've heard that one very often. Cheyenne was finally willing to talk about what happened on March 24, 2015. She admitted she and Brittany went to a house party and used drugs and alcohol. They were both heavily under the influence. And her last memory was from about 4:30 a.m. after they went to McDonald's. At one point they argued, but she couldn't remember why.
Okay.
And I could understand this. If you've had a lot to drink, throw in some drugs in there as well, Okay, things might be a little fuzzy. Now, we already know she's a liar. She's lied multiple times, but she could be telling the truth about that things are a little hazy.
That happens when you party
too hard.
Yeah.
She did say she blacked out at some point and was unable to recall what exactly happened, but she woke up hours later and knew something terrible had happened. According to prosecutor Robin Ritter, Cheyenne didn't offer a reason as to why she killed Brittany. And this kind of goes back to what I said earlier. You know, they've been friends since like the 9th grade or something.
Yeah.
They're not in a relationship. What is the motive? But as you and I talk about often, sometimes there really isn't a motive if you have kind of a snap type moment.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not like something was planned out. Drugs, alcohol, words are exchanged, people get heated, and the next thing you know, something really bad happens. Well, there really wasn't a motive for it. It was a heat of the moment type of thing where somebody got mad and killed somebody else.
Yeah, they went too far.
But those, I think, can be tougher to solve because, you know, there is no motive.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it could be like a jealousy thing. Like, I can't believe that these people were giving you more attention at the party than me. And
yeah, or I liked this guy, or you know, whatever it is. Prosecutors couldn't establish criminal intent, but they did prove reduced intent. It's not something I've really heard of.
Me neither.
Either. The charges against Cheyenne were reduced from second-degree murder to manslaughter.
Okay, so they really dropped those charges down.
They did. Now, I understand why first-degree murder would be hard.
Right.
Right? In a snap situation, we just said that there's no motive, but there's really no intent.
Yeah.
There's no planning. There's nothing like that. So I could see it being dropped. Now, being dropped all the way to manslaughter is quite a bit.
It is.
On January 15, 2018, Cheyenne pleaded guilty to manslaughter and was sentenced to 7 years in prison.
Pretty light, but it is manslaughter, so.
But 7 years is still very light.
Yeah.
You know, there are people, now we are talking about Canada.
That's true.
So it's hard for me to, you know, compare that to the US, but, you know, here you would get more for armed robbery or burglary.
Some drug charges.
Or some drug charges.
Yeah.
So I get it. Manslaughter is a much lesser criminal offense than first-degree murder, but still to kill someone and only get 7 years. Man, if I'm a family member, I'm upset.
I would be.
I'm not happy.
Yep, I would be very upset.
Not happy with that sentence at all. Cheyenne's lawyer, Lisa Watson, argued she lacked intent for murder because she was drunk and high and didn't remember strangling Brittany.
Well, she says she doesn't remember.
True. Very true. While Cheyenne accepted responsibility for Brittany's death, through her lawyer, she maintained that she didn't remember killing her. Attorney Lisa Watson told the court per CBC, she knows the family would like an explanation, a reason, but unfortunately she can't provide that.
Well, let's remember she didn't accept responsibility initially.
That's true. She
finally accepted responsibility, but
yeah, she lied in the beginning.
Yeah.
Ultimately accepted responsibility, but still says can't really give an explanation because I don't know exactly what happened. Now, to your point, that could be true,
right?
Because of the drugs and alcohol, or that could be a way to maybe wriggle out of some of the more serious charges. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe she knew how to play the system a little bit there.
Could be. Cheyenne also gave the following statement through her lawyer. She said, "I will never forgive myself. Nothing I say or do will ever bring her back. I'm very, very sorry. It shouldn't have ever happened."
Yeah, look, I mean, if she really felt that way, then yeah, there's absolutely nothing you can do, and you will absolutely not forgive yourself, and you will think about this for the rest of your life. You know?
Well, and I think we all hope that somebody like that would. She took another person's life.
Exactly.
Now, again, I'm somewhat dubious of what people say in court because sometimes I think it is heartfelt. It's true. Other times I think people are just saying what they know the court wants to hear because it's in their best interest to say this or that. We don't know. Right? At the end of the day, Cheyenne is really the only person who truly knows how all of this went down and what state of mind she was in when she did it. Either she remembers it all exactly, but has played it off as though she doesn't, or she really doesn't know.
Yeah. I remember at one point there was a conversation that it might have been over the cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, how terrible is that for anybody to lose their life? But
sure,
to lose it over because,
of something to do with cocaine.
Yeah, you're getting an extra line more than I am, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't know how cocaine works. Apparently, you do. You must have a lot of experience with it. I don't know. No, I've seen movies. I know how it works.
Yeah.
But the lesser charges angered Brittany's family. Her stepmother, Vicky Wickenhauser, told reporters after sentencing she was a wonderful person whose life was cut short, and it's not fair. It's just not fair.
Yeah, we echo that, right? I mean, we just said the same thing.
I know for a fact, if I was a member of the family, I would feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
My loved one is gone forever, and the person who took her life got 7 years, and let's face it, probably won't even do the 7 years. Right? We've done a lot of cases in Canada, and even here in the U.S., most people don't do their full sentence. Brittany's aunt, Jennifer, said in her victim impact statement, "Most days we can't stop thinking about Brittany, what happened that night, what she must have felt fighting for her life." And again, if you're the family, I don't think, was justice served? In some capacity it was, because the person who did this is being held accountable,
right?
But not accountable to the degree that you would probably like.
Right.
They're going to get out much earlier than you would like for them to. And the family still doesn't have all the answers that they would like to have.
No, there's a big piece missing.
Yeah. During her time in prison, Cheyenne received 15 serious institutional charges.
Oh.
Including assaulting a corrections officer.
Not good.
She racked up 44 minor charges for drugs, diverting medication, threatening staff, and disobeying authority.
So not a ideal inmate.
No, not at all. Now, I'm sure a lot of inmates rack up charges.
Sure.
But Cheyenne was granted day parole in June 2020. But it was revoked 4 months later when she overdosed, used a laptop without approval, and was, quote, generally disrespectful.
Well, it sounds like, pull her back in. Don't let her, be out during the day if she's being disrespectful, overdosing, and not, following the rules.
Well, I talked about being very upset if I'm a family member. I am going to be livid if I find out that 2 years after the conviction, this person is out on day parole.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about day parole.
I know.
I've talked about it before. I don't get it. I understand the idea of rehabilitation. I understand the idea of trying to acclimate this person back into the world. I really don't want killers, though, shopping at the same grocery store as I do, who then have to later report back to prison. I don't like that idea. I really don't.
I mean, I just don't think she deserved the right to be out after racking up all the violations that she did.
Well, and I think you have to factor that in as well, right? How do you get day parole when you're so far from a model inmate?
Be good in here, so I know you can be good out there. If you can't be good in here, how are you going to be good out there?
So I'm with you. That doesn't seem to be a good recipe. No. And obviously we know it didn't work because the minute she got out, she's using drugs, using a computer, which she apparently wasn't supposed to. In 2021, she completed her first 6-week intensive addiction program and went unlawfully at large and was arrested in March 2022.
Yeah.
Shortly after that, she attacked a correctional officer after being denied a shower.
Not going to let me shower? I'll show you. Not going to let me take a shower? Come here. Come here.
I know people like their showers, but Cheyenne was granted statutory release on March 28, 2024. Most offenders serving fixed-length sentences are given statutory release after serving 2/3 of their sentence. This allows them to finish serving their sentences on conditions as they reintegrate into the community. The parole board set the conditions an offender must follow during their release period.
Yeah, see, the problem with something like that is you already have a track record of this individual not really doing well, so maybe just hold her for the whole length of time.
Yeah, I guess, but what happens now you can't hold her past 7 years.
No.
So eventually she's going to get out, and is anything going to be any different? I kind of understand this part. I'm not as upset about it, I guess, as I am about the day parole. That part really bugs me for some reason. But, this is basically like parole, kind of, but you have all these conditions, and if you fail to meet them, they're going to send you back.
I just think she has a problem listening to authority. I think she has a problem following guidelines.
Well, and she also has a problem with addiction, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's probably what's driving all this, right?
Yeah, and that could be the underlying factor that causes many of these other things to happen. But, she's released. Her release was suspended when just 3 days later, she got into an emotional state during a conversation with a halfway house staff member and refused to let them into her room during room checks.
Well, why would you not want somebody in your room to do a room check?
And probably because you got something in there you don't want them to find.
Yeah.
After a suspension, the board reviews the case to decide whether to cancel an offender's release or allow them to continue living in the community. This time, the board decided Cheyenne could remain on statutory release after she was accepted into a residential treatment facility.
That's probably where she needed to go from day one.
Yeah, well, she did go, remember, and got into trouble. In May 2024, Cheyenne went to a residential drug treatment center in Calgary. Soon after her arrival, staff found syringes and a pill in her room. She tested positive for amphetamine, and the center withdrew support. She left the facility and was again unlawfully at large until she was arrested on June 2nd, 2024.
Yeah, she's definitely has a problem with drugs, addiction, and I don't know. I don't know how she's going to stay out of trouble until she can fight that monster, and that's a hard monster to fight.
It is, but I have to question the parole board here because they keep making these decisions, and I don't know what they're based on. She seemingly has done nothing to prove that she deserves to be, set free.
That's true.
But yet, time and time again, they keep saying, well, it's okay. Just don't do this. Well, and she goes and does that. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of like telling your kids you're in timeout, but you can sneak a cookie if you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
What good does that even do? Put them in timeout.
I don't get it. So apparently she pulled door handles in a parking lot until she was able to get into an occupied vehicle. She stole a key. She was seen laughing in the driver's seat after hitting another vehicle and driving away.
Okay.
Well, don't forget, she's kind of hopped up on amphetamine.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not sure that her thinking is all that clear. She was driving erratically and was in the oncoming traffic lane for several hundred meters, causing other cars to pull off the road. She hit another unoccupied vehicle and tried to steal a van before police were able to arrest her.
It's causing all kind of havoc.
Yeah, so she was charged with 2 counts of robbery and 1 count each of evading police, resisting arrest, and dangerous driving. The board suspended her statutory release and determined her risk to society can't be managed. So they released her, or revoked her statutory release in February 2025. Her risk to society cannot be managed. Yeah. I think that's correct. Yeah. My problem is it seemed to take them way too long to figure that out.
That's what I'm thinking. I think you could have figured that out probably after the second release that didn't go well.
Or maybe even after the first, but it's like they just kept giving her chance after chance. And every time she kept, messing up. According to the board decision, they said you successfully deceived your case management team and ultimately the board into believing you were motivated to attend further treatment to address your substance abuse and trauma. You then breached virtually all of your special conditions within 1 day of your release, choosing to immediately acquire and use illicit substances and absconding from the treatment facility where you were ordered by the board to reside. 1 day.
Yeah. I mean, do I really believe that she was able to pull one over on them?
I don't think so either. Yeah. I think that's just some wording they used maybe to kind of make themselves look a little bit better. I just think they made the wrong decision. Absolutely. Flat out.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is just them kind of CYA.
I get it. You want to get this person help. I understand that. Because I think you're right. A big part, or maybe even the heart, the root of the problem is her substance abuse issues. Yeah. Probably leading to a lot of other things, but
and it probably started when she was young because she had the problems with her family, abuse and things like that. So there's a root cause there that was probably never addressed that led to the drug addiction, and that was never addressed. So
and the board did acknowledge that she was exposed to drugs at a very early age, as well as alcohol, and continues to use substances to cope with the abuse she suffered in foster care. But they went on to say she's been able to access cultural programming and an extensive network of community support. So I think they're acknowledging the fact that, she dealt with or is still dealing with a lot of issues from her childhood that were real. Yeah. They did happen. During her post-suspension interview, Cheyenne claimed she left the treatment facility because it was too strict. I can't handle all this strictness.
Yeah. I don't like being told what to do.
Well, who does? Well. But when you kill somebody, kind of the part of the punishment is being told what to do and what not to do.
That's exactly right.
She overdosed more than once and was hospitalized. She stole the vehicles because police refused to come get her when she tried to turn herself in. She got strange reasoning for a lot of different things.
She does.
She really does.
I don't know if she's in her right state of mind.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know how much of it is fueled by the drugs. and how much of it is just like an inability to take responsibility for your actions. Yeah. I think there's a part of that here as well. The board concluded that Cheyenne has a dismal history in terms of your complete unwillingness to abide by institutional rule and the conditions of your release. And that part I would wholeheartedly agree with. I think she got too many chances to prove that dismal history.
Yeah.
That's the only issue I would take with it. Cheyenne's 7-year sentence ended on April 18, 2025. She has been deemed a high risk to reoffend.
Yeah, I think absolutely she is.
I don't know how she couldn't be. But again, it's part of my problem with the 7-year sentence. And I get it. They have guidelines, probably min and max sentence, guidelines.
Yeah.
But 7 years to me is so light for killing someone that you're kind of, in a way, painted into a corner. You can't hold the person for longer than 7 years unless they rack up a bunch of other charges, I guess, in prison.
But in this case here, they let her out after 2, basically.
Yeah, they kept trying
to get her,
to let her out. And I get it. Canada has a different way of doing things than we do here. I'm not saying one is better than the other. What I will say is I think 7 years is a little light.
Yep, I agree with you.
And maybe they gave her more chances than what I would have if I was on a parole board. I think I would have thought after the first, but definitely the second time that, hey, you don't deserve this early parole because you can't seem to follow the rules.
Well,
so you go back and just do your whole 7, and then after that, we'll see how it goes.
I just don't feel like they ever addressed the underlying issue of the drugs.
No, but they did say that she had access to all these community programs and things in the facility. At a certain point, Gibbs, if you're a person who's struggling, especially with addiction, even if all the help in the world is there, if you don't want it, or if you decide not to take advantage of the help, well, it's not going to work.
No, it comes down to, do you want this or don't you want this?
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have to put the work in. You're going to have to.
And you got to want to quit.
Yeah.
Some people say they do, but they really don't.
Yeah. Until that happens, you're probably just going to be on that merry-go-round, heading back again.
And the first time that you're outside and you're in the presence of something, you're not going to say no to it because you haven't made the decision yet that cannot be a part of your life. So as we wrap this one up, I think there are questions here. We go back to Brittney Gargol. Did she receive justice if the person who caused her death served only 7 years for manslaughter? I think that's a real question for me. But I know my answer, and I would say no. I don't consider that to be justice.
I agree with you. I really do.
I think one of the problems in this case was that prosecutors just had a real hard time kind of establishing criminal intent. And then, of course, you had Cheyenne claiming that she had no memory of killing her, which meant investigators had no motive to go on. And that is the one thing that I guess you'd have to say was pretty smart on her part, right? She didn't come out and admit that I did this, but she kind of skirted it by framing it inside of this kind of drug-induced or alcohol-induced haze.
Yeah, I blacked out, man. Did it. I guess maybe I did do that.
I must have done it, but I don't remember doing it.
I don't know why I did it.
How can I be stuck with first degree or maybe even second degree. So, but again, of all of it, that's what I have the most problem with. And I'm sure the family does as well.
Yeah.
That would be very frustrating for me to know that this person who killed my loved one got out in 7 years, and they did so while in those 7 years being given every opportunity to leave the facility and do this and do that. Yeah. And at no point did they ever toe the line.
Right.
They broke the rules at every juncture, but yet they just kept giving her chance after chance.
Yeah.
But that's it for our episode on Brittney Gargol. And that's it for another episode of True Crime All the Time.
Yeah.
So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.